Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's another edition of Let's Talk Buffs. This is a big one, Carter. This is a big one. I feel like ever since you introduced the first segment of the show, which is always recruiting, we've been on here talking about Julian Lewis every single week. Every single week we've gone on here, sometimes 2 times a week, coming on here talking about Julian Lewis. This is amazing. This is crazy. I think Buffs fans are hype. I'm hype. Carter, just give me how are you feeling? What's going on?
Man, we've been waiting for this day for how long? We've been confident that this is the place Julian's gonna end up. I mean, he took his first visit in April. It was hope then, and then it turned into, okay, can we finish this thing out? We thought he was gonna commit before his season started. And I mean, it finally happened, man. That graphic drop today from Hayes Fawcett, the videos from Pat McAfee. We're on top of the world, Joey.
Dog, I think it's the play. Every single time, CU is here for the theatrics when it comes to their number one flip. And they're always going to get a flip every single offseason. This year it was Julian Lewis. Last year it was Jordan Seaton. The year before that, Cormani McLean. They're going to get one every single year, I think. And it's always going to be the theatrics involved every single time. I know Cormani was on $1 Million Worth of Game, the podcast. I know Seaton was on Undisputed last year. And I know, obviously, you know, now Julian Lewis was on the Pat McAfee show on YouTube, which is very popular, big show. Sending him off to Georgia was crazy. I don't know how much CU had to do with that. Just seeing the Seaton stuff last year where it was like he took that crazy just out of the blue Ohio State visit, it makes me think, okay, maybe they did play some in there, but also maybe Julian just wanted to get a front row seat at what was the like primetime game of the week there at Georgia. I don't blame him at all for that if that's the case. But this is huge news, and I just want to read off some stuff. He's the number 2 player on ESPN, which is crazy, right? ESPN recruiting, he's the number 2 player in the entire country, and especially when we're talking about the quarterback position, obviously the most important position on the field. This is the one that drives your team. This is the leader of the team. So he's the number 2 player in the entire country at the quarterback position on ESPN. He was a lot higher on 3. But you know how on 3 is, Carter. They're going to drop that rating, bro. 4-star on there. Previously, though, 5-star before CU. Here's a crazy one. He had 15 scholarship offers before he ever stepped on a high school field. So he hasn't even played a high school game yet, have 15 scholarship offers. And this one, to me, is the most important and the one that just tells you the quality of player you're getting, the type of player you're getting. He took a previously unranked high school team to a state championship game in the state of Georgia as a freshman. In that high school is in the classification of the highest competition. This is the type of player you're getting. This is a massive recruit for Dion Prime and the Buffs, man. I mean, we're lifelong Buffs fans here, right? Let us know. You got that CU banner in your background. This is crazy, is it not?
Yeah, and Georgia's no slouch either. It's not like this 14-year-old kid is just going and letting it rip in Minnesota or Montana. Like, there's some kids in that state championship game that like went on to be good college players. What was that? Probably three years ago.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't think Julian has any fears. Like, he looks super calm in everything he does. I watched some of his highlights. He's just letting it rip. Super calm on the McAfee show. Obviously, trusts himself over others. Committing to Colorado. Like, gosh, I'm so excited right now because everyone said Prime can't recruit high school. He goes gets Seaton. He goes gets Cormani. Okay, he can't get a quarterback. He just got a 5-star quarterback. Don't give me this 4-star stuff. 5-star quarterback. And man, he's going to start right away, and he's going to be good, man.
Listen, Carter Smith drags us out any longer. He's going to be a 1-star by the end of this process. Bro, just because he's a CU interest involved in there. You're totally right. here's the question. I was watching some of the videos before we hopped on tonight. I wish we could come live right after the news, like David Doc Broncos. He's there every single time, bro. He drops like 6 videos a day. It feels like. I wish I could catch up. I can't. But when I was watching those videos, a question that continued to pop up was, do you think Julian Lewis is a day one starter? Do you, Carter, think he comes in day one and just takes the keys, kind of like that picture, right?
Yeah, I think he takes the keys. I think that's kind of what you pitched to him. He said on the Pat McAfee show today that the opportunity to compete early, it's not like Prime promises him anything, because he never promises anybody anything. But the opportunity here is much a clearer path than it would have been at a place like USC, where they constantly have quarterbacks coming in. And Prime has proven it does not matter your age. If you can play, you can play, and you're going to get on the field early. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for Juju. He's already seems to be the king of Boulder now. Obviously, we have 2 top 5 picks there, but Boulder had to have been going crazy today with the news. So he's going to be the king there starting in January. But I do think he starts right away. I don't think it completely rules out the opportunity for them to bring in a transfer portal quarterback just to compete alongside Julian. But I think first game next year, it's going to be the Juju show.
Yeah, I agree with you. I tend to agree with you. I think that is the plan here. I do. And also just from an NIL perspective, let's think about it for a second, right? The quarterback we just saw, Underwood, he just got $10.5 million over 4 years, which, to put it in perspective, shout out to Zach Seegers, who told me before, would be more than Russell Wilson is making on the Steelers right now per year. He's, of course, getting a shit ton from the Broncos. I'm not bringing that up, though. But he's getting more on the play for Michigan than Russell Wilson is for playing on the Steelers every year. It's a crazy amount. So just from an NIL perspective, I imagine CU has a nice bag out there for Julian Lewis to come. I don't think they would ever have been in the competition if they didn't at least have a competitive offer out there. If he was making millions more at the other school, I'm sure he would go there. I would. I wouldn't blame the kid at all. So to then go out and get another starting caliber quarterback in the transfer portal, which is a proven college quarterback, right? Probably costs you just as much, if not more, really, if we're being honest. So I just don't think it's a smart use of money if you were to go out there and say, okay, we just spent a shit ton of money on a backup and starter, and one of them is never going to see the field in our plans. That just doesn't sound like a smart use of money to me. I think the plan is for Julian to start, and I think maybe they then go out and get a transfer portal quarterback that is a good backup. That's the way. I don't think you're going out there to get a guy that you think is going to beat him out in camp.
Yeah, maybe you're getting a guy in the spring window who didn't like the way his winter to spring went. Not necessarily a guy in the winter transfer portal where really all the big things happen. But yeah, you're definitely going out there to get another backup quarterback. You're not going and getting top guys like we've seen Dylan Gabriel in the past or other players like that, because you got your guy. They went all in on Juju, and they're going to ride with him.
Do you think there's any possibility that they just don't even go transfer portal quarterback as to backup Juju? Like, I look at the list here, and they added 2 this last year. And then they also still have Staub, who, I mean, he had his one game against Utah last year where he looked at least competent as a quarterback, right? I think we can at least say that. I'm not going to be one of those guys like so many on Twitter where it was like, Ryan Staub, man, why don't we just play Ryan Staub? I'm not going to do all that. But do you think there's like strong possibility that they just stick with the room and add Julian Lewis?
Yeah, I think there is. I think Staub is liked in that locker room. I think Shermer could be a fan of Staub. I think he's shown flashes. I think he's good enough to be a backup quarterback. I think it would be more of a thing where a player wants to come to Boulder, wants to try to revive a little bit, and just get coaching from some of the best, and ends up being QB2. If not, it's whatever. But I don't think them putting too much assets into a transfer portal quarterback. Definitely be a lower tier guy.
I agree with you. I totally agree. I just don't think it would be smart use of resources. I think for a backup level quarterback in college football, you could probably go out and get a starter at defensive tackle. I really do think, like, NIL wise, I think that's probably about the equation there. I don't know. So before we hop in, and I want to also talk about just like the future of the Buffs. That's the name of the show. It's going to be the future of the Colorado Buffaloes. It's Julian Lewis and how does he fit in with the rest of the team now. I want to talk about the guys departing, the guys who are going to stay this next year. Before I do that, please, guys, please like and subscribe. That's how Carter and I grow this channel. It would mean a lot to us if you did that. It's a smaller YouTube channel. There's about 30 of you in here right now. And shout out to all of you guys. Please help us out. Anyways, let's get into it. So the guys returning. I think the offensive line is an interesting one. I think it needs to be better, especially with a true freshman quarterback, Carter, than it is this year. They need to have a running game in place. The running game hasn't been consistent this year. And I honestly just don't think they've had the dogs to like have the most competent run game you would want. Especially when teams are playing light block boxes. I doubt that it's the same next year with the true freshman quarterback, especially early on. They're going to want to test him and see how he plays early. Good news is 4 of the 5 starting guys from this year are returning. Give me your idea there. How much of a difference do you think this O-line will face versus this year? Do you think it's similar group or much different?
I think it's going to be much different. I think Carday is going to end up a Buff, and I think that's a guy Phil Lodeholt really likes. I think they envision him being a starting tackle his freshman year, opposite side of Seton. And I think Cash has proven he's no slouch. He's got that job. I think he's got that job going forward. And obviously Seton, the guard spots is where it gets interesting. They got 4-star commit this year, Chauncey Gooden. He could be in that rotation. Some returning guys could stay and not hit the portal. We'll see what happens with Michael Carroll, right? That would be a guy that would immediately be a plug and play, the 5-star Bama commit. It'd be awesome if down the stretch here before signing day, we're able to get a commitment from him. But I see the transfer portal being the most active at these guard spots. I think they definitely have much more flexibility now. It's not like they have to go out and get 5 new guys like last year. They can focus on guards and depth more than usual, but they do have some depth young guys like Peyton Kirkland and Zachariah Owens that could get some shine there. But I do see some change happening for sure, but specifically at those guard spots.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. Especially like, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Carter, but I think Tyler Brown has an extra year of eligibility since last year he couldn't play. So I'll go down this list real quick for you guys on just the guys. And I said 4 of the 5 starting linemen are returning. It's really like 7 of the 8 because we rotate our offensive linemen so much. Guys are returning. Jordan Seaton, obviously a true freshman this year. He'll be a sophomore starting next year. The guy that's leaving he has to leave because he's going to be a senior, is Justin Mayers, the guy they got from UTSA and is the guard for the Buffs this year. Honestly, I think that puts him in an okay spot. I don't think he's been their most impressive guard this year. He's been okay. Maybe not their most impressive. And then Hank at center. This is a really interesting one to me, Carter. You mentioned Cash Cleveland. He took over the spot. It makes me sad to say it because when Hank isn't screwing up the snaps, he leads me to believe like there's some potential there to be a starting center from what I saw and be a good starting center, especially him only being a sophomore this year. It's just, at what point do you get benched mid-year? The other center comes in as a walk-on true freshman. He has a year of eligibility on you. Do you say, I want to transfer out? And I don't want to throw that on there. It's just maybe a worry.
Yeah, I think Hank could definitely look outside of CU a little bit going into next year. He's not had the greatest year. Definitely a frustrating year for him. So I could see Hank being on his way out, which sucks because we obviously want Hank to stay and figure it out, because it's definitely frustrating for him and everyone around him. His issues with the snaps, and I'm sure it's tough on him. Um, but Cash Cleveland has really taken over that spot.
Yep, Cash Cleveland. And then I'll also bring up Khalil Benson, who I think has been a pretty good offensive lineman for the Buffs this year, along with Phillip Houston, who has started a lot of games now at right tackle. Not always the best. He's been up and down this year, right? He has some really good reps, but and then some really down ones. Shirley comes in the chat. Shout out to you, Shirley. Hello. Bree's my podcast co-host for the Broncos. Shout out to Let's Talk Broncos. Shout out to you, Bree, for tuning in. So yeah, it's a very like I do think I expect change here, but also I think some of these guys offer insurance where you don't have to play the true freshman Gooden, for example, if you don't feel like he's ready right now, because you have guys returning back. I didn't even mention Kareem Harden, who started this year a lot. So I think it gives you some flexibility this year. For me, I would be looking at the offensive line, or this offseason, I'd be looking at it as, okay, yeah, I'm down to add to the offensive line. I'm just not in like, oh, give me all the offensive line I can take like I was this last year. I'm specifically looking for big upgrades. I'm shopping big instead of just taking everything. You know, I'm not taking a bunch of stuff off the clearance aisle anymore. I'm going big.
Yeah, no, we're looking at top program starters that want to change the scenery, and I
Right.
think they got the ability to do that now. Nobody's safe anymore. They got their quarterback. They're getting wins. No one's safe.
So, what do you think? Do you think this is a solid offensive line to have for Julian Lewis going in the next year? And again, it's just so far. We haven't even entered the transfer portal yet.
Yeah, I like the future, I would say. Maybe not the beginning of next year, but I like Phil coaching them up through the offseason. They're just super young, right? So, but yeah, I like the future. It might be a couple rough games to start the season, but they'll figure it out, especially like you said, if they do go in the portal and pick up a couple guys.
Love it. Let's move on to a different position here. The running back position. Man, they're returning their three-headed monster there. All of them are young enough to return. None of them are seniors and have to leave, nothing like that. Dallin's a sophomore. Gustav's a sophomore. Then Michael Welch is obviously a true freshman. I think this is a solid group right off top for next year and for Julian Lewis to be productive with. I think that this group is more you're going to, however, this group performs next year, I think it's solid. It's going to be based off of how the offensive line looks, similar to how it is this year. I think this running back group is more productive or is more talented than the production would indicate, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I do think so.
Yeah, I think you're right. And this room has to be good next year. There's so many moments where we just put all our weight on Shador and have Shador win us games or get us out of tough moments. And that would be really tough for a true freshman quarterback as good as Julian Lewis is. He's just not had those moments or not had that experience. So we really got to find a way to run the ball next year. I do think this is a good group. I would not be surprised if one or two of them were to leave, but I think they would be easily replaced. I think running backs in the portal, they're in there a lot. We saw Dylan last year. That was pretty shocking. Obviously, he went home. I don't think anybody was expecting him to leave. But they're definitely replaceable. But I do like this group, and they're young too. And we got Charlie too. Charlie's serviceable.
Charlie, yeah.
I got a touchdown last week. So a solid group.
Absolutely. I don't expect much change here. I don't. That's just my opinion. I think a lot of these guys will be returning. I think the only way you see a big change here is if somebody hit the transfer portal, wanted to come to see you, and it was someone that was a clear upgrade over the rest. That'd be the only way I see it. I don't see the need to add depth I don't see the need to even add many young guys in this group. Like Michael Welch is a true freshman. Michael Welch probably is their most talented running back. I wouldn't say their best yet, but I would say he's their most talented.
And they got Brandon Hood too. I mean, he's had flashes in spring camp. He hasn't got much run. I assume he'll be a redshirt. But he's fast. I mean, I remember watching some well off of him in the spring. So just they got two really promising young guys that I assume that they like, along with the sophomores and juniors.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that is correct. This is the position group. The next one I'm about to bring up, Carter, that I think is in for the most turmoil. The Shrine Bowl, and I want to give a big shout out to all of these guys, by the way, for this. The Shrine Bowl started throwing a bunch of CU stuff out the other day. This guy accepted, this guy accepted, this guy accepted. It turned out to a grand total of 6. That's something we'll talk about in a different episode of just maybe Shrine Bowl versus Senior Bowl, stuff like that, because I have some information on that. But Jimmy obviously is going to be gone this next year. Jimmy Horn has been amazing for the Buffs. Travis Hunter, their best pound-for-pound player, probably the best pound-for-pound. No, he is. I'll just say it straight out. He's the best player pound-for-pound in all of college football. LeJontay Wester is going to be drafted this year and is going to play on Sunday football. And then Will Shep. Also, 4 of your guys, your top 4 guys, matter of fact, are going to be gone at wide receiver. Just looking at it, I think that kind of leaves you with Amarion Miller, he's been fantastic when given the opportunity. Draylon Miller, who we just saw this last game, have a 100-yard performance. And then kind of like true freshman Cam McCall. This is the group that's going to need the most remodel to me.
Yeah, it's definitely going to look the most different. I am a pretty big fan of the young guys they got there. You mentioned Omarion. You mentioned Draylon. They got Cam Michael, like you said. Cordell Russell is a guy transferred from TCU who struggled with injuries this year. He's definitely talented enough to get some time. They got 2 4-star receivers in this 2025 class. And if you're a receiver and you're committing to the Buffs, it's because they expect you to play early.
Wow.
So I'm never really going to be worried about getting playmakers at wide receiver with this team. I mean, there's guys that just want to come play here. There's going to be portal guys that come here. This group is going to look the most different, though, like you said. We're similar to last year. I mean, you had Xavier Weaver leave, Shep come in, LeJontay come in, and they've been great for us. So I expect this group to be really good, but definitely different.
Definitely different. And I agree with you. I think it will still be really good. I do. Here's something I've heard and I know is so if you were to go, like, let's say Julian Lewis, a 5-star quarterback, threw out there on Twitter, hey, I need corners and DBs. I'm trying to get some stuff done, right? Let me tell you right now, there would be 100 wide receivers that showed up and maybe 3 corners to cover the wide receiver. Like that's just kids want the ball in their hands. And what it has caused is just a massive influx of wide receivers, all competing to be the best. And a lot of those guys then have to make the change over to corner eventually because they couldn't cut it at that position. So the depth around college football at the wide receiver position is massive. You have a lot of talented players that aren't getting the playing time for whatever the case may be. This is going to be the easiest to remodel just because of how many good receivers there are. You even see it in the NFL draft. Every single year, there's a 3rd or 4th, or even like I remember Stephon Diggs, I think he was a 6th or 7th rounder, came into the NFL and started producing pretty fast. Every single year, you're going to be able to see that. Tank Dell for the Houston Texans, just off the top of my head.
Puka Nacua.
Puka. All these guys, they weren't early draft picks, but because the depth is so loaded, you're able to replace that position pretty easily. I also think this is a strong suit of Coach Prim right now is he's able to recruit the hell out of these corners and wide receivers. I think that is awesome. I mean, we just mentioned these guys, right? And two of the 4 guys I mentioned came in the transfer portal this year, LeJontay and Will Shep. They're going to be able to recreate that along with, okay, Amarion Miller's getting more playing time. Draylon Miller's getting more playing time. This is going to be the easiest one to reproduce. Now, to have success, though, I don't even think it needs to be as deep as it was this year. What they need to do is what you said earlier, Carter. They need to have a strong running game. True freshman quarterback, take pressure off. We want play action boots. We want screens. We want quick hitters. We want to take the pressure off. We're limiting as much straight drop back into third and long as possible. That's the way the Buffs win next year to me, and set Julian Lewis up for the best success.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you're definitely going to see the pass attempt. Hopefully, you're going to see the pass attempts drop off significantly from this year to next year. If not, then we're either really good or we're really bad.
Yeah, Julian Lewis is either. We don't know.
Yeah, but you're exactly right. But I mean, they really like using screens a part of the run game, and that's what some of these guys will be used for. Like Cam has killer speed. Draylen's obviously shown off his yak. Omarion's shown off some yak.
Marion, I mean, when he's out there, he looks like he could be a future top 50 pick in the draft. Like,
dude, I think he's gonna be. He's gonna be a good year next year, and man, he's got a lot of eligibility left too. Only a true sophomore. I don't know how many games could he redshirt
this year. No, I don't think so.
Did he play a one or too many games?
Yeah, I think it was probably like 5 or 6.
Yeah, that sucks. That would have been nice. Not that he'll be begging for eligibility. I expect him to not even use all of his. But yeah, this room's gonna be solid.
It absolutely is. And then just adding on to that, Carter, if any of you guys have paid attention to Pat Shurmur at all through his career, I have, because I'm a Broncos fan. I had to watch his offense in the NFL. Offense a lot better in college than the NFL. But his offense has never looked like it was or how it is this year. It's a completely different style of offense. He is a lot more zone running, under center type guy. Just through the course of his career, I expect that to come more down to what he's done in the past than what he did this last year. And then also playing to Juju's strengths. That's something I have to give him credit for this year, is I think the style of offense you're seeing is him adapting his offense around the star that Shedeur Sanders is.
Yeah, it definitely has been a transformation. That's always been a part of this offense, the relationship between him and Shedeur, and I assume him and Julian have grown a great relationship. I know he went down to visit with him over one of our bye weeks. So I expect the same thing, just playing to his strengths, exactly like you said. And they got a lot of time to prepare before the season starts. Julian's going to get here early enroll in January. So that'll be nice. Plenty of time before the season starts.
Absolutely. Okay, so I think it's time. Let's touch on Kansas a little bit. Let's touch on it. I'll be honest with everybody in here. I usually come down into this YouTube channel with a full breakdown of what I saw on film, blah, blah, blah. For this one, I got so just tied into the Julian Lewis stuff that I didn't even have a chance to watch much film on the Kansas one. So maybe I have to come back and give the people what they want a little before the show, before the game. But Carter, let me know what you saw. I know you watched the Kansas BYU game, all 22 film. What did you see there? I know just draft community stuff. Devin Neal's a stud of a running back. The Buffs have played a ton of good running backs this year. It's crazy how many good running backs they've played. What do you think is the biggest scare for the Buffs going into this game?
Yeah, so Jalen Daniels, quarterback there, he's a runner. He likes to run the ball. I came away from that game liking what they did schematically in the offense. They have a lot of motion involved, a lot of misdirection. I watched a play that they had a play action, then it looked like a speed option. Jalen Daniels turned around and they were looking for the wheel on that play action. They got a lot of cool stuff, but Jalen Daniels, he's kind of a panicky quarterback. If he'll throw the ball deep and give you chances to make plays. They really got to pressure him. I saw a stat. I don't know it exactly, but he is not good when he's pressured. Like I think PFF grade was like 32 when pressured. So he's definitely had an up and down year, as has Kansas. Obviously hot lately, getting 2 big upset wins versus Iowa State and BYU.
Huge.
Which helped us a ton. I mean, we were Kansas fans before this week.
No, you're right. But like, I think to the casual people, like I was just texting some buddies today who don't follow Colorado as close as I do. They're not fans of Colorado like I am. They're texting me stuff like the boogeyman's coming to town, like all this other crazy stuff. Like they're just going down to march down and just wipe off the top of the Big 12 one by one. It's messed up. I don't like it. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Colorado's different than these other teams. I think they're the most talented team in the Big 12. We've been on here saying that for a bit. They are the most talented team in the Big 12. They should go out there and win this game, and it should be convincingly to me. That's how I feel about this. I think Kansas is better than what their record indicates. They were supposed to be a really good football team going into the season, and they just weren't closing out football games like you thought. Jalen Daniels, a lot of that is because of him as well. For how talented Jalen Daniels is, 14 touchdowns and 10 picks. You can't have that. Can't have that. That's not a good stat line. When you're turning the ball over and putting your team into bad situations, hey, man. At the end of the day, you're Kansas. Like you don't have Georgia's defense with like Trevon Walker, all these dudes out there. That's not your defense. You can't turn the ball over 10 times. So they are more talented than I think people or their record may indicate. But it doesn't change that Colorado's the most talented team in the Big 12. It doesn't change that.
No, I think Colorado's going to have their way pretty good. Touching on Kansas defense real quick, it's pretty much headlined by their 2 corners. Kobe Bryant, who's had some words this week about how excited he is to go up against Travis Hunter. Like, you go for it, man, but would not advise. And then on the other side, they got Mello Dotson, who had a pick in the BYU game. So those are probably their 2 best defensive players. But I mean, they got their hands full this week with our receivers. I think Jimmy's expected to be back. So that'll be good to have him back this week for sure.
All right. Well, cool. I think that's all we got for the Kansas game today, guys. I think maybe I come back and give some more on the Kansas game as well. Maybe we both come back. I don't know. We'll talk about it and we'll tweet it out at Let's Talk Buffs on Twitter if you guys let us know. Again, everybody, please like and subscribe to this channel. It would help us out a ton. That is how Carter and I grow this thing. We want to be live every single Thursday, as well as put something out or record Tuesday for a Wednesday morning drop if you guys are interested. Carter also goes live with David Talks Buffs, usually after every single Buffs win. I don't know if Carter's gonna be there for the L's. We gotta test that out. We don't know.
We'll be live after the Kansas game.
All right, cool. Well, shout out to everybody who joined us tonight. Appreciate you. Go Buffs.
Go Buffs.